Prime-time local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
RJ Smackey spoke with Jacqueline Weed of Big Brothers Big Sisters as they are taking part in the Great Canadian Giving Challenge.
So I'm great to be joined here today with Jacqueline Weed from Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Lloydminster. Thanks for taking some time to talk with me today.
Thanks for inviting us.
So today is the first day of the Great Canadian Giving Challenge. Can you just tell me a little bit about what that is?
Yes, this is a nationwide contest put on by Canada Helps. They're a fundraising third party kind of thing that collects donations for different organizations. And so what the Great Canadian Giving Challenge is that for every $1 worth of donations in the month of June, we receive a ballot to be in a draw for $20,000. And they do the draw on July 1st. So if somebody makes a $5 donation, we get 5 ballots. If somebody makes a $20 donation, we get 20 ballots. So we receive the donation itself, and then we get entered for the $20,000 as well.
And so for people who don't know what Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Lloydminster does and what kind of programs you guys provide, what do you guys do?
We match screened and trained adult mentors with children who are needing someone extra in their life to ignite their potential and, see that spark in them.
And so if you guys are able to get this $20,000, and even if you don't, you guys are getting the money that people donate to you, what are you guys going to be putting that money towards when it comes to your program?
So all funds and all donations that we receive in our agency go towards, right now, our virtual mentoring program. So because of COVID-19 and the restrictions on meeting in person, all of our matches have switched over to virtual mentoring. So they're meeting kind of like how we're meeting today and doing their activities together, touching base, because that is still important for those children to have that support and receive that regular, weekly touch base, that check-in, just to see how they're doing with social isolation and not being in school and all that stuff. It's super important for them still to have that contact. As well, we're also forming new matches. So we're recruiting and screening and training volunteers virtually, and then forming new virtual matches as well. So any donations we receive go to supporting that in the agency.
And I know I saw a lot on Facebook that you guys have been collecting bottles a lot recently. Can you just tell me a little bit about that process?
Sure. So we usually raise almost half of our yearly annual budget doing things in the community, but obviously with the times that they are, we haven't been able to do those fundraisers and those opportunities. However, the bottles for kids is still one option that we can do. So if people have any empty bottles and they don't want to go to the bottle depot, they can give us a call or message our Facebook page, and we'll make arrangements either to pick them up or get them to drop them off. And then we count and sort them, take them to the depot, and receive the proceeds from that.
And if someone wants to donate money to you, how would they be able to do so?
So if they want to donate for the Great Canadian Giving Challenge, they need to go on to CanadaHelps.org, because we only receive the ballots for donations that are made on Canada Helps. There is a link on our Facebook page, on our post from today, and on our website as well, to go directly there. But if you're just wanting to make a regular donation anytime, outside of the Great Canadian Giving Challenge, you can send us a check, or you can, get in touch with us, and we'll figure out a way to make that happen. And
for people who want to learn more about your organization, obviously you guys are on Facebook and you have a website. What's your website?
It's best if they have questions, just to message our Facebook page, because then we can get in touch with them that way. It'd be a quicker response. Or they can phone the agency and leave a message for us.
And then how long is the Great Canadian Giving Challenge on for?
The Great Canadian Giving Challenge runs until the last day of June, and then they actually make the actual draw on July 1st. So it's a pretty quick turnaround time.
For sure. Thanks for taking some time to talk with me, and I wish you guys the best of luck when it comes to those ballots and getting those donations during this month.
Great. Thank you.
Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery and Furniture House, downtown Lloydminster.
I'm joined here with Patty Johnston, and she's the owner of Core Dynamics Pilates and Dance here in Lloydminster. Now, fitness facilities reopen June 8th in Saskatchewan, and what are some changes that will be made at your studio regarding these new reopening rules?
Well, honestly, for us, our entire business model has always been based on limited class size, so we don't actually have a whole lot of changes that are going to be occurring, other than like definitely the cleaning is going to be increased. We're hiring a professional cleaning company to come in a couple extra times a week to make sure that the facility is cleaned properly. But as far as social distancing, I feel like depending on the size of your facility, as long as you're able to do it, they're allowing 10 into a classroom. So as far as fitness classes for the summer, that falls well within our limitations of what we've already set up as our business model.
Now, with dancing and other programs, it is a bit harder for people who may have to wear a mask, but will you guys be enforcing those rules at all?
Again, it's going to depend on where it's at. Like, our dance season typically finishes in May, and then we do summer programs. I myself am a little leery on that and have reached out to a couple doctors just because there is a lot of controversy about wearing a face mask while doing physical exercise. So I wanted some backup information on that before I make a decision. Really, I'm going to leave it up to the parents. If they're comfortable with their children wearing a mask and there's not a safety issue with it, then I have no problem with it. Will we require it? Only if that is what is actually laid out in the guidelines. And right now, I believe it's recommended. But we have social distancing parameters set up, so we're able to maintain those in our dance classes for summer camps the way things are set up currently.
And during the pandemic and during more of the lockdown, did you guys change the way you operated at all, such as offering online classes or anything like that?
Yeah. So we closed our doors, I believe it was March 16th. We followed the schools, and we were back open March 17th. We ran our full dance schedule virtual online. My staff, I was really proud of our team and how well they turned that around and how quickly. So we adapted to virtual classes doing Google Meets. We had already had Google Classroom set up as we use it as one of our training tools in all of our classes and a way to communicate with our students. So that was already set up. And then we also created a virtual site through the coronavirus, the beginnings of it, that housed some pre-recorded classes. It had terminology and technique teachings, crossword puzzles, coloring pages that were dance related. We had a site that had different dance movies that kids could watch if they were binging Netflix. So we tried our very best to make sure that we provided a sense of normalcy for our families, both parents and kids, while this was going on.
And what were the dancers' reactions to this?
They were varied. Some absolutely thrived. I was shocked at some of our more introverted students and how they really came out of their shells and how good it was for them. And the feedback we got from parents was just amazing and so supportive for all the efforts that we put into it. We actually never had any negative feedback about what we were doing. We did have like a few that it just wasn't for them, and that's fine. But I think out of our whole studio, there was only 3 that never took the online classes.
Well, that's still an awesome turnout, but you guys must be excited that the dancers can come back in and that you'll once be able to start teaching again.
Yeah, we definitely miss our kids. I think the most shocking thing for all of us, like we turned it around pretty quick, but even speaking with a lot of the school teachers, we all miss our kids, and the feedback and the energy that we get back from them, having them in our classroom, is that's what we miss the most, and that's where we want to be. So I'm excited to get started on some exam sessions because we had to postpone those. Usually they would be happening through May and beginning of June, and we've had to postpone those just because of travel restrictions and the organization we do our exams through. So we're hoping for an early early fall, late summer start on those. But yeah, I can't wait to see my kids back in the classroom and fill this studio again with some smiling faces.
Yes, of course. And if anyone is looking for some information, should they go on your Facebook or your website? Where can they go?
Right now, our Facebook is probably the best. We actually use this as an opportunity to redo our website. So it will be getting shut down here, I think, the end of this week, and our brand new one should be popping up in a week or two. And then all of our information should be on there. But yeah, we have some summer camps coming up in July and August if parents are looking for something to do. And we've got Pilates classes are still going on. So if people are interested, we're still hosting the Zoom, or not the Zoom, we're doing it through Google Meets, but we're still doing our virtual classes for those that feel safer at home. But we've also got the in-person starting back up on the 8th.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Patty.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and best of luck.
This week, in retrospect, back in '95, a group of school children took a field trip to the past.
The old Riverbend School may only be a reminder of the past at the Maidstone Museum, but today the one-room schoolhouse was returned to its former glory.
Now, who would like to read the second verse?
A group of 18 students from grades 1 through 9 had the chance today to experience the past.
We thought it would be a nice way to acquaint the children with how things used to be.
Retired teacher Iris Nicholson originated the idea, and both schools in Maidstone were encouraged to take part. Response from the students was overwhelming.
Those who were interested put their names in, and then some of them drew, and I think some of them had little writing competitions or something of why they wanted to do this.
We had to write letters to the teachers, and I guess that was the best one.
For most students, it turned out to be an enjoyable experience.
Good, it's fun, a lot better than what's at the other school.
And in 2000, the city of Cold Lake broke ground on a new trail.
The sod has been turned, signifying the start of a trail that will bring the town of Cold Lake closer together.
Not this side. This is going to be an actual linkage between the three neighborhoods, specifically Cold Lake North, Cold Lake South, and of course Four Wing.
The $600,000 trail has been in the planning phase for over a year, and hopes are to have it done by the end of the summer. It will span 11 kilometers, making travel for many residents easier and safer.
It's going to be a 2.5 meter wide paved asphalt surface. So what we have to do is go in and strip the topsoil off and bring in a good granular base. And then it'll be a paved trail complete with rest areas, signage, traffic markings, and every segment of the trail is going to be a little different. We're going to meet some different challenges, you know, of course going through the existing golf course here, going past the mall through an urban cross-section. Out in the country we'll be crossing through some fields and some natural areas, so it's got a little bit of everything.
And that's it for this week in retrospect.
Retrospect this week is brought to you by Webb's Ford. Worth your while to drive the extra mile. Webb's Ford in Vermilion.
Our Evan Kenny and Eric Bay sat down to talk about the new NHL Draft Lottery format.
Joining me today, as always, Mondays, is Eric Bay. Eric, thanks for taking this time.
Hey, always glad to talk sports, especially on a Monday, kick off the work week right.
Exactly, start off the week on the right foot. Today we're talking a little bit about the NHL, and specifically to start off, the NHL Draft Lottery. Now obviously with the playoffs changing, with the format changing, it almost seems like everything needs to be changed. Eric, why don't you just take us through this new draft lottery that the NHL has proposed?
Sure, give me the complicated job. Obviously, a ton of different changes going on here this year. And yeah, the draft lottery, no exception. So the way it's kind of looking this year is there's the potential there will be actually 2 lotteries happening for the NHL. And so how that first lottery will work, it will be the 7 teams that are already completely eliminated from the playoffs, the Ottawa Senators, Detroit Red Wings, those teams like that. and it will also involve the 8 teams that are going to be knocked out in the first round of this new playoff format. However, this lottery is going to take place before that round is even completed. So what they will do is they'll give all these teams different odds, and for those 8 teams still in the playoffs, they'll get these placeholders. So basically what will happen, it will be a same draw as it is in years past. For the first overall pick, the second overall pick, and the third overall pick. And so that will be that first lottery. And now what will happen is if one of those placeholders, which taking the place of those 8 teams still in the playoffs, if one of them is picked, say, for the second overall pick, what's going to happen is then they will do a second draft lottery, and that will just involve those 8 teams that are eliminated first in the first round there. And so what's going to happen there is those 8 teams will all have the same odds, so 12.5% of getting that number 2 overall pick. And so they'll do that next draw, and even if they do, say, first overall pick, second overall pick, those placeholders win that too. They'll do 2 draws like that. And if it so happens that the 7 teams that are currently eliminated win those first 3 slots, they'll just stick with the 1 draft. So it's a little bit complex, a few different avenues to look at, and some different possibilities here going forward.
So there is the possibility that we could see the original draft lottery that people have gotten used to if the teams who have not made the playoffs get those spots, correct?
Yeah, basically it's pretty much the same format, just the fact that those 8 teams get kind of a double whammy. They get a shot at going into the playoffs and also a shot at the first overall pick. So pretty unique situation there. But yeah, just like you say, it's basically the same draft lottery, just tweaked a little bit.
So now a team like, say, Edmonton or Pittsburgh, who are ranked the 5th in each of their conferences, teams like that who could still get that first overall pick or win the Stanley Cup. What are your thoughts on that, and is that really fair?
Yeah, see, that's the one downfall, I think, of this situation, the one part I don't like it, and you brought it up beautifully. Just the fact that, again, these teams, they've been tops in their conferences, well, especially the Penguins, that is anyways, for the past 10 or so years. They have a good spot right now, like you mentioned, 5th in their conferences, so really they shouldn't have a shot at all in any lottery situation. But what could happen, especially this year, where all these teams are starting from scratch pretty much, and who knows who could get knocked out first. It could be a wild year for the playoffs. So yeah, in theory, you could see a team like Edmonton who won 4 first overall picks in 6 years, or Pittsburgh being the cream of the crop still with Crosby or Malkin, having a shot at Alexis Lafreniere if they do get knocked out. So that's the one thing I think that they should have done. I think they should have just kind of left it for those 7 teams that were eliminated. But I mean, again, too, you look at it, we've talked the playoff format as well. Super beneficial to the Canadians, but also if you're the Canadians, would you rather have that higher pick and continue to build for the future? So, I mean, it's still a tough decision, but yeah, that's one thing that I don't necessarily like about the format.
And you bring up, Pittsburgh. They already have Crosby. They have Malkin. They're contenders as we speak, not far off of their back-to-back Stanley Cups. So for them to have the chance at Lafreniere, like you said, plus still be able to try and get that Stanley Cup, it almost makes it like a penalty for someone like the Philadelphia Flyers who succeeded and got that 4th place. So I agree with you in the sense that I don't really like it, but I guess, as everything's changing, the NHL also needs to change to adjust for this. Now, a big thing that could be a huge story at this year's draft is the Ottawa Senators. They have 2 of the top picks, having San Jose's pick from the Erik Karlsson trade. Eric, what could we see on draft day from Ottawa?
Well, obviously, they're going to be either really fortunate or really unfortunate, kind of like we've seen with the Sabres. They've been tanking for years and still can't win that number overall pick until they finally took Rasmus Dahlin. But yeah, it could be very interesting. Obviously, they're going to have some high odds, as they do have that San Jose Sharks pick and their own, and both those teams are completely out of the race. So they have, 2 of the best odds out there, really. So, I mean, it could go either way. You could see them with the number 1, number 2 pick. You could see them with 1 number 1 pick and drop a little bit, or you could see even 3 teams jump up from those 8 spots, and they could be down, in that 4, 5, 6 range, depending on where those picks line up. So yeah, it could be very interesting, and really the way the balls drop will be very telling, I guess, for the Ottawa Senators in the near future, and especially in that long term.
Yeah, and the last time that we saw this, or at least from the top of my mind that I can think of, is from the Vancouver Canucks when they drafted the Sedins with back-to-back picks. However, those were one was a draft day trade. I don't know if we've ever seen this exact situation where a team has previously made the trade and has ended up in this scenario. So this will be interesting to see. Eric, thanks for giving your insight on this NHL draft lottery and for hopefully clarifying for some people out there.